Hi, N.A.R.C troopers. It's almost spring break. It's March. We're washing our hands. It's that time where that COVID-19 is like everywhere and growing. Well, let's not think about that because we've got something else to think about today. My topic to talk to you about for our little time together here is shame and stigma. I think that a lot of people have shame and carry that through the recovery because there's so much ignorance and misunderstanding about what narcissistic abuse recovery actually looks like, what is required, what is entailed. All of that, is very confusing, and there's just a lot of people out there who do not understand what we are dealing with, what we're going through. They don't know the language, they don't know the research, they don't know the brain chemistry, the scientific facts dealing with trauma bonding and all of the things that we're experiencing, addiction and codependencies and attachment disorders and all the things that come into the realm of recovery from narcissistic abuse. So let me say, as far as shame goes, I was at dinner last night with a church group of people, and one of the women there asked the question, do you think it really matters that we have a label that we can assign to these people who have violated us and betrayed us and ruined us and the people that broke us? Do we really need to assign a label to them? And I think that the answer is yes. We need to understand what it is that we are experiencing. And the only way to understand that is to do your due diligence, do a lot of research. Yes, it would be terrible if we run around haphazardly, recklessly, and carelessly just calling everybody a narcissist. You're a narcissist, and you're a narcissist, and you're a narcissist. That is certainly something that we don't want to do. But by the same token, if we go through all the checklist and we do all the reading and we look at all of the things that have happened and it just comes together and makes sense in a way that they tick all those boxes. And for some of us, we've been in therapy, and if that narcissist has not bamboozled the therapist into thinking that you're the problem through all that gaslighting and that kind of stuff, cognitive dissonance, if that therapist has been sharp and experienced in dealing with these people, then they know that this is a person with a personality disorder. And in my case, my therapist told me, you need an exit strategy. This isn't going to end well. He's not well. And I didn't listen, of course, because, well, that's another story. But the point is, there are people who can know and do know and have the diagnostic tools to make those decisions. For those who don't, there's a wealth of information that you yourself can get into to see if that's what you're dealing with. When you are coming out of an abusive relationship, that recovery is completely different from your regular, typical, neurotypical person's recovery from divorce. It is a completely different experience. There are things that are involved, including chemicals in the brain and neural pathways that have to be remapped, things like this, that are critical things that must be addressed. The language of what you're dealing with, the blame shifting, the projection, all of these things, the way that they do it, the way that they just boom, those cycles of abuse where there's the idealization stage, there's that whole period that you go through where you're devalued, and then finally the discard, if you made it that far without leaving yourself. These are things that regular people don't experience, and the reaction that it causes in the mind, in the brain, in the body itself, with anxiety attacks, physical illness, and in the worst case scenario, there are so many people who don't make it to the other side. They're calling suicide hotline and not getting the help that they need just with that one thing. They don't have support network. They don't have people who understand they are at risk and that this is a life and death experience, that it kills. Narcissistic abuse recovery is lethal, and it is not to be taken lightly. So yes, we need to affix those labels to the people who are these sociopaths, psychopaths, narcissists, cluster B personality disorder people. Yes, we need to know what they are. That's kind of like saying, here's an equivalency for you. That's like telling a person who goes to the doctor, you don't need to know if you have diabetes or not. You know, you've got some symptoms. Okay, does it matter? You just need to get healthy. You see the foolishness in that? The ignorance in that? Oh, so you might have had a heart attack. You have all the symptoms and now your heart's not working right and your health is failing and it looks like you could be dying. But does it really matter if we diagnose that and affix a label to it and call it a coronary embolism? You know, yeah, it could kill you, but really you just need to power through it and get over it. You know, let it go. Be healthy. Do you see the folly in that? It's the same thing with this. You have to know what you're dealing with so that you can deal with it, so that you can treat it, and so you can get healthy. So I'm sharing this to illustrate a point, that there's a lot of ignorance, there's a lot of misinformation, there's a lot of resistance to the idea of looking at this type of personality disorder, which I must add seems to be a growing phenomena in our culture. One that for whatever reason, whatever cause, it is becoming more frequent. And I don't think that's because social media is pointing it out. I think it's really, we're growing a bunch of narcissists and sociopaths and psychopaths. That's what's happening for whatever reason, So when people shame you or stigmatize you for suffering through this, for being in a life and death situation where the recovery is like withdrawing from a drug like heroin, where recovery looks like something that could be life and death and you could possibly not make it to the other side. It's that serious, where recovery might require prescription meds or some kind of aggressive therapy or some kind of special treatment that's specific to that kind of abuse, that kind of brainwashing, that kind of trauma bonding. That's real. It is real and it's a thing. So for people to stigmatize and shame is not a healthy way to react. So we have nothing to be ashamed of. I feel the same way about any kind of addiction, any kind of like mental health issues. You know, we have been with partners who had mental illness and the relationship was abusive because of the mental illness factor. That's just, it is what it is. That's a fact that must be addressed. So there is no shame. There is no stigma to any of this. And we have to believe that. And we have to educate the people that we meet about what we're going through and what that means and how significantly different recovery looks for us compared to your regular generic divorce. Sure, that is a horrible thing, a life-altering experience. This is a whole nother beast. So if you have family, if you have friends who do not understand, just expect that, because they don't. And it's very hard to understand this unless you've known someone who's gone through it or you yourself have gone through it. It's very hard to wrap your mind around this. Who would believe this? There's flying monkeys, there's blame shifting and projections and gaslighting and word salad and all of these things that make it just so hard to know who's telling the truth, what's up, what's down, what's really happened here with the intermittent reinforcement, what's really happened here with psychological interpersonal violence that is abusive. It's abuse. You are a victim of abuse. And there's no shame, no stigma in being that, because you know what? Once you know what has happened, once you know what they are, once you know what you have experienced it and you accept that, then that gives you opens up a whole new perspective for healing, for recovery, for getting well, and for never, ever allowing yourself to get tangled up in a mess like this again. So that's my message for today. And a little reminder, March is Women's Month, and there's a National Women's Day. I believe that is March 9th is National World Women's Day, and it's a time to think about women and the violence that is perpetrated against women. And I'm not saying that all the people, that this is a gender-specific thing, but the narcissist, the sociopath, the psychopath could be female. It's a gender fluid illness. But for just the sake of this conversation, I just want to remind you it's Women's Month. And also, if you find this message resonating with you and you feel that it's important to share this with friends, with family who are not understanding, who are not supporting you the way that they should, just let me say, it may be too much for them. It may always be too much, even after they're enlightened, even after you've shared things and tried to educate them about what you're experiencing. It may always be too much for them. And you have to accept that and respect that. This is a journey really you have to do through looking inward, self-work, self-recovery, self-partnering. But if you feel like this would help them, please share my video blog here, and maybe that will be a good beginning, a good opening for a conversation that could happen, that could help. So I wish you hope and healing, and stay strong, because this is tough and it takes a long time, and you just need to dig in and accept that and not give up and not run out there and hook up with another one like this, because wow, what a way to spend your life, right? That I don't think that's what any of us would want to do. So follow me on narctroopers.com. N.A.R.C. Troopers, N.A.R.C. TROOPERS.com. You can see more articles, videos, and podcasts to listen in your car and as you are working. Okay, that's it, everybody. Have a great week. Wash your hands.